And you will realize like there is no judgment or anything. Like people share the the most vulnerable, the weirdest things, and it's okay. Like we all, I think one of the very powerful things is that people start realizing that everyone is going through similar things. A lot of people feel very alone in their struggle, and a lot of people feel like, oh, I must be weird because I have this problem. And they start realizing that everyone is going through this. If not that exact same thing, some version of it. And that is very empowering because you start realizing that it's just human and it is not something wrong with you, and it is something that can be fixed. Like one of the things I feel very strongly is that really there is nothing that we cannot overcome, and there is nothing that we cannot heal. It may take time, it may be challenging, it may be painful, but it is completely possible. And I'm saying this coming from a very, very difficult background. Like my journey, my story was, for most people, like they can't believe where I am today. Because not only I was in a bad place, I thought I was in a good place. I was in complete denial and I loved all the bad, not bad, but unhealthy things that I was doing. I really loved them. So I had no desire to give up my addiction. I enjoyed them, and like, everything was like very nice on the surface. So I came from there, like being in complete denial, having to fight a lot with myself to accept what is really going on, and then to start working on myself. So I have really seen like a lot of sides, been in very, very deep depression, anxiety. I have dealt with all that. That is why I know it is completely possible. And I know practical ways of dealing with it. It's not just some theory. It's like, I know it works because I have done it. The reason, like, for me, being non-judgmental is hmm, it's not something noble. It's like, for me, it's not something like to say I'm proud of this or this is such a nice or noble thing about me. The reason I am non-judgmental is that I have seen all the sides of myself. I have seen myself being oppressive. I've seen myself being a savior. I've seen myself disempowering other people, disempowering myself, feeling hopeless, feeling in despair, dealing with like intense shame and guilt and fear and all of that. So for me, like being non-judgmental is just natural. It is not something that, I had to work on or I did any work on myself. It was just like, yeah, if I am all of these things, why would I judge anyone? I know why all these things existed in me was my own wounds, and it is the same reason for everyone, that the way we are is because of our wounds. So there is nothing to judge or criticize.
How long did it take for you to start feeling that you're healing?
I will answer the question. The reason I don't really like to go into specifics is that each person's journey is very unique, and the amount of time it will take each person is very different. I also feel like, given my experience and my training, I have seen generally people are going much faster than I have gone in my own journey, because I was super resistant. Like I said, because there was so much denial, I was very resistant. So if someone comes who is similar to me, I can probably say that they will have a very similar journey to mine. But seeing y'all, you'll already seem to have a lot of awareness. You'll already seem ready to want to work on yourself. So I think it would be very different. So I wouldn't really compare. But to answer your question, also because of the way I did it was very different. I did a very immersive training, which was like an apprenticeship, where I was living in a house next to my teacher, who is like, she is a psychologist with over 35 years of experience in psychotherapy, and she's been working in shamanism for over 30 years. So she has a lot of experience, and I was living next to her for 8 years and training. So it was super immersive and constant, right? Like day after day after day. And still, it took me 5 years to even start breaking through. And then, like once I had my big breakthrough, which was like after maybe 4 years, not 5 years. I had after 4 years, yeah. Like then things started speeding up a lot. Like once I was like, fully ready to accept my real situation and start working on myself to get where I am today took another 4 years, which I think is still pretty spectacular considering where I was coming from. But what I would say is that, this is where I am today, but you see a lot of progress very quickly. Like I'm not saying you will be healed, but there you will be able to start applying the tools in whatever is coming up very quickly. And I think Ronald can probably share his experience on that. Like he's been in this for 2.5 years, but in 2.5 years, a lot has happened. So one of the messages you sent me today morning or yesterday was that I don't know what to talk about because so much has happened. So it's not so much about time, in my opinion. Time is definitely a factor, but you will start realizing that things are happening all the time, and you stop with the destination mindset mainly. Like it's not about reaching some place where I am healed. You start realizing so much in your everyday life, the journey itself becomes more interesting.
Do you feel like some sort of enlightenment, or is it,
It's a very complicated word.
yeah? If you
because
think,
because of the same reason that people have a lot of definitions of enlightenment. Again, like people idolize enlightenment a lot, and I have experienced the traditional form of enlightenment. I am not living in that state all the time, but for me, in my opinion, enlightenment is just one step on the journey. And enlightenment, the traditional definition of it is really just like getting knowledge or seeing. And that is why it is just one step, or I would even say is the first step. Is like you cannot do anything until you really see what is going on. So I think there are like many of these mini epiphanies that keep happening, many enlightenments, so to speak. The great enlightenment, it's not of too much interest to me, because for me it's much more interesting to have all this in everyday life rather than like, I think in my version, in my definition, in my teachings, to be enlightened, you can reach a state where you are functioning in a way in your everyday life which is very fluid. You're very connected, you're very empowered, you're very creative, you are able to manifest the life that you want. I would say that is one version of enlightenment which is much more interesting to me than maybe like empty mind, detachment, and all of that. Like I said before, I'm also working on all those things. I'm just not living the traditional where either you go into a cave or a monastery or a temple. For me, it's much more interesting to just live a very normal life in an enlightened way.
Or in a jungle in Brazil.
Well, but the difference is I'm not very attached to this place. I really don't know where my life is going to go. But being here, one reason was obviously like I found my teacher, I found my path here, and I want to do my training, and I don't know where life goes from here. Again, I'm not attached in that way that I have to live here to be functional. Like I feel like I have reached a place where I can take these teachings and live this way wherever I go. And I think this is what my point is really. It's like, you are basically becoming detached from conditions. Like you are functional and creative and resourceful, empowered wherever you are.
Yeah, so once you have reached here, don't you feel even the slightest of urges to like go back to wherever you were before and see how you would handle it now, just for that validation. And maybe this is another piece of my mind that has not healed, that always wants validation. But I would still
But
ask this question.
the validation is from yourself. I would put it that way. It's not that others are validating you and telling you good job, bravo. It's that
Exactly.
you feel in yourself like, wow, I can actually deal with this. And I was not able to deal with this before. I used to be completely dysfunctional in this situation before. And now I am super functional. Do, go back home. I do go to India. I visit India, living in a very big city for like a good amount of time with all the traffic and noise. Like Mumbai is a beast. You know it because you have lived there. But like for the others who don't know it, like if you can be functional and balanced in Mumbai, I think that is saying a lot.
So that's good to know that you do go back and see how
Yeah,
now you tackle. Okay. Okay.
yeah, like and that was like one of the biggest uh tests and proofs of this work is like why I feel so good about teaching and doing this work is that I have actually seen the results in myself and seen how much it has helped me. And that is my real intent. It is effective and it is for people who want that, they really want to change their life in that way, that they don't want to disconnect from society. They don't want to give up everything. They want to be functional in society. And the only thing I will add is that most of my clients are not doing what I am doing. They're not quitting their jobs and moving to the jungle. It's only what I did, but they are getting equally good results. Like it's that is why also, like I am sure that the results are not dependent on any condition really, other than your intention. Like that is a condition. There are some conditions, like you have to want this, you have to want to put the effort and the time. There is no magic pill. So there are certain basic conditions, but it is not material condition. It is not dependent on something outside of you mainly.
Yeah, I also feel like the members in the study of self group, like we are all like very different from different part of the world, different cultural backgrounds, different ages, so many differences, but yet
Yeah, different
what
professions, gender, like age, nothing. There is not like these are not conditions to do the work.
yeah, and I feel like when other people are sharing, it's I'm often surprised by how many things we have in common and how much of like when listening to the other people sharing in the conversation with Theo, how much it can apply to what I'm dealing with at that moment and how I can learn from it. So I think these group sessions, they are very, very valuable.
And
What
also
else?
many times there are group members who will suggest some very interesting solutions. So it's not only me, like we are all intelligent, we are all resourceful, we are all learning and bringing our unique perspective. So like everyone is contributing. It's not just me. Like I encourage people, you don't have to talk compulsively, but if you really have something to share, you really feel like something will help, there is the proper time and place to do it. Definitely.
And I feel like in the past 2.5 years, I came much closer to myself. And one of the things I was dealing with was like a lot of anxiety. I think if I would have been in this conversation like 2.5 years ago, my shirts would be completely wet because of the sweat. Now I'm here well, I wouldn't say like completely relaxed, but I'm pretty much relaxed now. And
No, it is a big
um,
because you were also very avoidant of social situations or where you would have to put yourself out there. Like, and not only you're avoiding, you're being like pretty comfortable being open and sharing. So that is a big pro. Yeah.
so yeah, I'm very happy with it.
Yeah. Thank you for sharing your experience. The other thing I want to just add very quickly is that we have couples doing this together, we have friends doing this together, and I have like teenage friend in the group. So like again, there are many different dynamics in the group which become very interesting. So it's not something you also have to do alone. Like if you know someone you want to bring, you want to recommend, now that you know much more, it's like,
Or people becoming friends through the group.
of course, that
Yeah.
definitely happens, that you develop very deep connections with people because like you're sharing in a way that like a lot of people never share like this with even the people who are closest to them. Like, and that is where the connections are made, when you start seeing each other vulnerable and making connections and bonding at that level, it's a very different kind of connection. And even like, for couples of friends, like, or family, like right now we don't have any siblings, but like in my other work, I have seen siblings, family, parents, and children coming together, and it's always very profound. So like any relationship, any connection just becomes much deeper when you go through this together. Thank you for coming, everyone, and for sharing, for being vulnerable. Well, if you have any questions, you can continue emailing me, and let's stay in touch. Thank you.